Oh, yeah. Hello to everybody, and I hope and prayer everything is all right within the samsara. Not to expect completely perfect, free from difficulties or challenges. Remember, we are in samsara. We are in this conditioned existence, so therefore, have a realistic expectation. And within that realistic expectation, and I hope and pray you have last few days, you have a good time. And here, it's getting hotter and hotter. And the last few 5-6 days, want to rain, but unable to rain. So it's very muggy. I think that's the English word, muggy. Very sticky. Otherwise, everything is all right. The virus has not reached here. And so everybody is now sort of since waiting what's going to happen on after Sunday. Because Sunday, this lockdown may going to end. So don't know. And that is among the many uncertainties, that is on the top list. And today we did, here in the ceremony, except Tuesday, because Tuesday is the day off. Otherwise, every day, 4 geshes taking turn, 4 geshes doing medicine Buddha prayer from 8 to 10 or 10:30. Today, I join. Today, there are 10 monks in the main gompa. We keep the social distance. And I joined because, one of the Buddhist organizations, international Buddhist organization based in Delhi, wants to have some prayer recording from different monasteries. So today, with that, for that purpose, so also the administrator asked me to join. So that was good. Morning from 8 to about around 10:30. And that is my information. That's my information. Now better to go to the real world here. Okay. So we are reading this text written by Geshe Tashi, and it is really mainly, since Geshe Tashi wrote, to express his gratitude, particularly among his teachers, among his, the followers. This, as we saw in the verse 3, Pawo Dorje. And I'm very pleased since our first reading, last reading, I deliberately left that not to mention to you who's that Pawo Dorje. I said, I have no idea who he is, and I will find out a little bit more. So, and I'm very pleased some of you have done a little bit self-study, and that's really good. And that's one of my main reasons, deliberately left that. And briefly to say, look at the jimbas that nice recently written Tsongkhapas, because there's a chunk of, this great Geshe Tashi teachers, as well as, students. They are more like sharing their teachings to each other. And so anyway, that, the text seems very much composed, Geshe Tsongkhapa, had written to, relation to some kind of occasional, spontaneous, the what you call the praise and admirations, inspirations. So that is the text that we are reading. And this is also, it says in here, translated in Tibetan, it says Chilab Nyegu. And here Gavin translated saying the close lineage, close lineage. Here it is deliberately used, this Geshe Tsongkhapa used Chilab Nyegu, because Geshe Tsongkhapa, Geshe Tsongkhapa received a particular teaching, which is called in Tibetan Javyang Chogoro. There are, I think, 7 or 8 Manjushri, the initiations and Manjushri practice, which was given by His Holiness Dalai Lama last year in Bodh Gaya and year before, started year before, but he couldn't finish, and he finished last year in Bodh Gaya. So that is in Tibetan, it's called Javyang Chogor, circle of Manjushri. And that teaching directly comes from this master called Pawo Dorje. And quite often he is commonly called Lama Umapa. Lama Umapa. So it is called close lineage, Nyegu, because, Pawo Dorje or Lama Umapa received this teaching directly from Manjushri, and then the Geshe Tsongkhapa received from the Pawo Dorje or the Lama Umapa. So that's very close. There's, there are many generations or many other lineage masters were involved directly from Manjushri to Pawo Dorje or Lama Umapa. Then, so that is the text that we are looking at. And if you want to look at more, who is this Lama Umapa? Sometimes called Umapa, Lama Umapa, sometimes called Pawo Dorje, commonly called Umapa. And you can look at, read the Jimba's, people who have the Jimba's biography, Geshe Tsongkhapa's biography written by Jimba recently, which there's in a very nice, maybe 3-4 pages. What is the connection between the Geshe Tsongkhapa and this Pawo Dorje and their relationship? In other words, although Geshe Tsongkhapa has a tremendous, the inspiration or tremendous strong connection to with the Manjushri, in a very young age, but the actual that, like the introduction, like when we have a meeting, the 2 people or 3 people, and we introduce one to another, it seems, that this Pawo Dorje is the main sort of person, that, Geshe Tsongkhapa is directly introduced to Manjushri, or, and which I mentioned briefly last time. So I will not go that any detail in here. So the first 3 verses, among the first 3 verses, the first verse is directly, pay homage or seek a blessing from the Vajradhara, because it has a Vajrayana connection. So therefore, Vajradhara is quite often term is used, Gyuti Tapo, Lord of the Tantric teachings, Gyuti Tapo. So in other words, the most of those, Tantric teachings are directly come from Vajradhara. So, and that's why that's here. And which I mentioned briefly, what is Vajra meaning of Vajra. There are many interpretations, which I will not repeat again. And then second verse is, seeking, or Geshe Tashi is seeking blessing or, inspiration from Manjushri, and which I mentioned, the Manjushri is one of the most, important, like a, deity or the celestial being or the Buddha that Geshe Tashi have this very much one-to-one connection for in the later part of his life, for a long period of his life, time. And that's what here. And then the third verse is, as I mentioned, it is directly related to Geshe Tashi pay homage or seek blessing from this his teacher as well as his student, Pawo Dorje or Umapa. And I will not go any detail, because anyway, that is we have covered. So those three verses are more or less, paying homage to those Vajradhara, Manjushri, and Pawo Dorje. Now, today's reading starts from verse 4. Verse 4, and we will go verse 4, and if it's possible, verse 5. So in the verse 4, here translated saying, by merely calling him to mind, bless me that I develop for all time effortlessly devotion towards my master, most kind, source of all virtue, worldly and beyond. So this is a summary of all the teachers, all those what you call the close teachers that in Tibetan jigden debe geleki wendengu di tsawa tinjenje, the root of all virtues, root of all good qualities, or the source of all good qualities, or source of all virtues is those spiritual teachers, tinjenje, kind teacher, tinchen, kind, yeah, possessing kind, jigden debe geleki. So worldly joys, happiness, and what you call the transmundane or mundane or transmundane, or worldly and beyond worldly in the sense the liberation, enlightenment, all those good qualities. Sources of all those good quality is those kind teachers. And yila tembatsam tukundu miguzume kya chingilo. Just reflecting in a short moment, yila tembatsam tukundu, and at all the time, may I cultivate, may I experience mugu, what's called the aspiration, as well as what you call the kuba, respect, mugu. Here translated saying, the devotion. I think that is what here in Tibetan, last fourth line, me, merba. Merba is quite often translated aspiration. Aspiration in the sense, have a tremendous, what you call the aspiration to have the same, those qualities, what those teachers have. Those teachers, when we see, when we experience, when we understand, or when we recall, those great qualities of our teachers, then have a tremendous sense of aspiration that may I have the same, those great qualities with those, my teachers have. And that's the meaning of Merba. Mer, Ku. Quite often these two are used together, Mugu. In a longer meaning, these two are two different mental states, two different, what's called mental connection to our teachers. The first one is seeing, understanding, remembering all those great qualities, good qualities, then have a tremendous sense of aspiration that may I have those, also have similar those good qualities. And that is the Merba. And then here the Kuba in Tibetan, Kuba has a meaning of, respect, or, meaning of sort of sense of, sense of respect, sense of, also have a meaning of what's called, so the Kuba, Merku. So these two are slightly different, and it is quite often it is translated as here did it, devotion. Devotion, in the sense, admiration and also respect. So those two are admiration or, the respect. When you have a respect, what you have, there's a tremendous sense of joy. Quite often when in the body's gesture, when people look at outside people, when we respect, just gesture of respect, there's a sense of, submission, a sense of submission or sense of, but in reality, here the actual respect is there's a tremendous sense of joy, seeing the good qualities of the teachers. In this case, in this connection. May I have effortless, may I have experienced effortless aspiration, admiration or aspiration and respect towards those teachers who are the root of, who are the source of all the good qualities of the mundane and the supermundane, supermundane. So that is this, what you call the verse 4. And it's very similar, another Tsongkhapa's text, and many of you know this very well, foundation of all good qualities. When they kunji shiru chinjinje, sushin dhamma lamji zawaro, labor tongne, baba tumayi, kuba chimbo kewar chingilo. So that first verse, when they kunji shiru chinjinje, the base, the foundation of all the good quality is those kind teachers. When they kunji shiru chinjinje, sushin dhamma lamji zawaro, and seeing the cultivating a constructive relationship with the spiritual teacher is the root of my spiritual journey. Seeing the cultivating, developing a constructive connection with those great teachers as the root of my spiritual journey, and seeing that, may I have this admiration or respect to bless me to have that aspiration. So it is very similar in here. Bless me to have that effortless, the aspiration or, admiration and respect towards those great teachers. And that is this verse. And this is really something important for the people who have already, decided to take the teachings of the Buddha as one's own spiritual teacher, one's own spiritual teachings, and then have already decided after you have done research, experiment, and all those spend time, then to have the journey, spiritual journey, then to have a different layers or different levels of in your spiritual journey, have a different levels of your spiritual teacher, and having that spiritual teacher, the spiritual teachers who have those admirable, great qualities, and so on and so forth, then cultivating, developing what you call the constructive connection is something very important, which I mentioned based on Geshe Tsongkhapa's other texts, and similar to here. So that is verse 4. Verse 4. So what do we have here? Verse 1, 2, 3 are more like Geshe Tsongkhapa is, invoking blessings or, seeking blessings from Vajradhara, from Manjushri, then from Lama Umapa, Pawo Dorje. And this verse, what you call the 4, is, seeking blessings or inspiration from the root of those, from those teachers, saying, may I have this, effortless, what you call the admiration or, what you call the aspiration and respect towards those great teachers. So that is the verse 4. Now verse 5. Verse 5. We'll go a little bit further. Verse 5. So in here, the verse 5, you can see saying, bless me. Bless me that I be of few desires. Now here, there are several mental qualities. Mental qualities are explained in this verse. Which are really important as a spiritual seeker or as a spiritual practitioner. After we have great, those great teachers to teach us, to show us, to give us those instructions, then as a follower, then we should also have the, mental qualities, good mental qualities, and so on and so forth. And here, some of the, important mental qualities are explained. The first one, here in English, it says, I be of few desire. So I will, you have the English here, and I will look at the Tibetan. So in Tibetan, Dujun Choshe Shishin Tulwale, Nine Tarpa Tunye Somo, Pawo Dorje, Chosho Tenjin, Tangnam Chongme Gyo, Shinjilo. So Dujun Doba Chungwa, Chok Shepa. So these are two different mental states. Have very close connection, but have a slightly different, but here in the translation, and it seems these two are put in one. I think that also understandable. It says fewer, few desires, Doba Chungwa in Tibetan. The what's called, in other words, less wanting, that kind of mindsets, less wanting. Some people, whatever the reason, there's a particular illness, isn't there, called hoarding. Is it hoarding? Yeah. Collect everything. Collect so many things. I remember watching one or two programs in BBC or Channel 4, people who are suffering with that illness, just shocking what they collect. One time I remember that there is a old lady, hardly she can walk in her house or the flat, almost up to the ceiling. Everything is piled. I mean, these are the very gross we are talking about. I mean, already recognized as a mental illness. And there are also some culture element too. Along that program, I saw another program in BBC. The people who are brought up during the Second World War, they save almost everything, like those empty bottles, empty tin, empty boxes. This is because, how they brought up. They brought up in a very, very little, and everything is precious. And that brought up in that for spend large, and that is happening. There's an element of that. People say, people who are grown up after the war, Second War, during the hippie time or 60s or 70s, because less compared to during the wars, they're less concerned about, there are plenty in certain extent. I mean, they are also poor. So they have a culture of throw away everything. If it's left over, just throw away. If this thing, throw away. So Doba Chungwa, that the mental, the very, not out of the culture, not out of the mental illness, but the very deliberately, have a less that kind of mindset, wanting. I want this, I want that, I want that, I want that. That is Doba Chungwa. Doba is desire. Chungwa is less desire, pure desire. And this is very important for the spiritual seeker. Because if you have an opposite of that mind, constantly wanting and searching for more and more, and different, more and more, literally, there won't be that much time, not only mentally, there won't be that much time left to do the spiritual things. Because to do the spiritual activities, we have to give time. As the other day I mentioned, this practice make perfect, that English expression. So to do the practice, then need to spend time, isn't it? So literally. And then not only time is, become shorter, become less time to do the practice, because we have to feed that habit of wanting more, therefore less time is left, but also mentally more worry. And all this makes difficult. Choksheba, that is, content. Whatever you got, have this amazing mental qualities, that sense of contentment. Whether you have a lot or whether you have a little, to have this sense of course, contentment should be looked at in a context. Of course, people who have children, people who have, family to look after, of course, you have to have all those, their basic necessities, your basic necessities. It is not saying not to have any. There's another expression in Tibetan, quite often those great masters I use. Rangdundu, Tön Yungwa, Chawa Yungwa. In other words, saying, for one's own sake, for one's own purpose, have a less worldly activities, have a less sort of, the planning or, those projects. For the sake of others, have more activities, have more planning, have more, projects. And that's here is also have a relevant when we talk about, content, that sense of content. That's important. So here there are two, Dojung Chokshe, Shishing, and here translated at peace. So here talking about peace, in this case, peace in the sense of, the calm, relax. Your mind is not agitated, irritated. Your mind is not constantly wandering, one things to another thing, one events to another event. Not in that way. Have a sense of, calmness, sense of relaxation, sense of that, that is here, shishin, tulua. And here translated, and tulua here translated saying, the mind controlled or discipline. Control may not be right, good word. Sort of ability to what's called to discipline in the sense, not let your mind, wherever it wants to go. Have the ability to control your mind, or have the ability to really, you become the master of your mind. Instead of your mind, our mind become master of ourselves. So at the moment, many of us, our minds make us to act, to do, to plan, not in that way, other way around, ourselves to become the master. And that is what here, tulua. In that way, the mind will be very, in Tibetan, the tulua has a very nice analogy in Tibet. Some of those Tibetan masters are used. Shing tulua. Shing is the field which is very fertile, not like a desert, not like that arid, sort of places. No matter how much you sow the seed, nothing will grow. Not in that way. Tulua has the meaning of your mind is extremely fertile to do the spiritual things. So there's that kind of connotation too. So there are 4 different mental qualities. Dobachungwa, the pure desire, or the pure wanting. Choksheva, content. Shiva, peace. And then Tulua, have a very what's called, your mind is disciplined. Your mind is very disciplined. That is what here in this first line. So there are two other qualities are coming. And here in English it's translated, saying of sincere quest for freedom. So in other words, from your heart, from our heart, seeking the liberation. So really seeking, or liberation seeker. So that is what here, quest, sincere, nyingne. That's what here translated, honestly, sincerely, very, this is what nyingne literally means, from the heart, from your heart, you seek liberation. And that is very important quality to have, people who are seeking liberation. If if you don't have that kind of mindset, then that will be, spiritual journey will be very hard to make progress. Because heart is not there. That's what here, Songporo and here translated honest in speech. Honest in speech. In other words, speak truthfully. Those are some of those qualities which in this the first two lines from the verse 5, and which is something important for us to remember. These mental qualities are basic necessities for the spiritual journey. Basic necessities. Like if you're going to make a bread, going to bake a bread, then you need flour, brown, white, whatever. You need water, milk, or butter if you want to make a little bit delicious. And more delicious, put some raisin and all those things. Those are the little bit extravagant or a little bit extra. But you need basic those things. Water, flour, and somewhere to bake your bread. So similar to that, these are the basic necessities for the spiritual seeker, basic mental qualities. And here, what I can see is really, Geshe Tsongkhapa is explaining, the earlier to talk about those great teachers, then now talking about more like a spiritual seeker, a follower, what kind of qualities that we should have. Okay, so the next two lines I'll come back next time, which are okay. So that is the today's blah blah. Oh, where's my Tara prayer book? Oh, I didn't bring here, but I hope it will go. Otherwise, in the middle, I need. Maybe better to go and clack it. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. That will be very embarrassing. The abbot who doesn't say 21 Tara prayers by his heart. That will be big embarrassment. So I want to make sure. Oh yeah. Odalai ne jome tami chango le rosh. Ba meje ola je tusum sanje tilem. Toma koje sheso so hadang hami jepin. Shabje pe mo la de pomba kuna de. Toma yum la chance. Oma je ma pama drama la chance. Chance drama nyama pama chene keje la tandra. Jigden sungun chegi cheje kasar jiwa nenjo. Chance tongke dawa gendo kawa jene zibe she. Kama tongda tsoba namanje rabdo chewe ramba. Chance semen chune je peme chane. Jimba Zundu Kadu She wa Shaba Samden Ju Changze Tejin Shebe Zu To Taye Number Jawan Malu Baro Jimba To Be Jawe Seki Shindu Changze Duda Rahun Ye Ge Duda Choba Jiden Dumbo Shabin and Luba Meba Guban. Chanze Geshe Mela Tsangba Lungla Naso Cheram. Chomborona Jisan Namanda Nujin Sogi Dunet. Chanze Teje Chadang Peki Paro Chugur. Egon Yinjan Shabin and Meba Chuban Shin. Chanze Dure Jiba Chenbo Dugi Pawo Nabarjo. Chuje Shen Chonye Denze Chao Tamje Madus. Chanze Kunju Sumzen Chaje Seme Toga Nabarjo. Malu Choje Kolo Jenbe Rangi Veje Chomcho. Chanze Rabdo Kawa Jebe Ojen Veje Chumbe. Sheba Rabje Dodara Ye Dodan Jeden Wando Tse. Chanze Sashi Kyongwe Tso Nama Tamje Guba. Chonyi Yewa Yege Hongge Hongba Tamje Nabarjo. Chanze Tawe Tombo O Jenba Tamje Shindaba. Lebe Trene Waba Me Tabar Shindo Rutsen. Chanze Gebe Tama Me Tara Barwe Chengwe Wene. Yeja Yungum Gune Koruge Taye Pune. Chanze Sashi Mala Chage Teji Nijin Shabe. Chonye Chenze Yige Hongge Rinpa Dunbo Nige. Chanze Tema Gema She Ma Nyangen Deshin Chu. So Omda Yanda Dembe Dikba Chenpo Jomba Nye. Chanze Kune Koro Kawe Taye Bune Nabarge. Yige Chube Ngane Kwebe Ripa Hone Chanze Turi Shamne Dabe Hongge Nambe Sabe. Ramenda Radan Beje Jiden Sumna Yawani. Chanze Vai Tsoi Nam Berita Tajen Chana. Tara Niju Pegi Duna Malu Pansen. Chanze Vai Tsonam Ke Bo Kata Mem Jiten. Gwene Goja Kawa Jige Zeda Melon Yambasen. Chanze Nima Dawa Jebe Jini Bonda Rusen. Hara Niju Dudara Shindo Chabe Sen. Chanze Tini Sumnam Gwebe Shive Tudan. Dudan Rona Nijin Tso Nama Jomba Ture Rajoni. Zawe Ngadi Duba Dita Chanze Wane Nishu Zang. Chanjo Semjo Rinpoche Maje Panam Kejo. Jewa Nyamba Meba Ya Kone Kondo Ewa Sho. Kanri Rave Korve Shinkam De Pendan Dewa Manu Chungene. Chenre Sewa Tenzin Jazo Shabe Side Pado Tenjo. Oh yeah. Thank you, and take care, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.